microphone on? I'm just gonna assume it's on. Hey guys! Right, this is a bit awkward. You're either here because you noticed my attention seeking on Facebook and it worked. Yeah. Or because you actually want to learn something about light and how it affects color, which is super important to actually improving your artwork. I noticed that on YouTube, at least from my experience, there's a lot of videos on how you begin to get into art, how the basics of a program function, or how you do basic anatomy, which is all super useful, but there comes a point where you're better than that. And you get kind of stuck in that moment where you're drawing quite alright, but you don't really know how to get proper good. And after I've been studying art in England a little bit, I realized quite a few things that are super important to just getting better. And once you pay attention to them, you're going to be better, and it's all going to go so much easier once you understand what you have to pay attention for. So I was hoping to do some tutorials on that, and this is going to be the first one, light and color. So I apologize in before for any grammatical mistakes I make. I'm totally stuck in Germany and my English is starting to suck. Right, so let's get started with this. When I started painting properly in school, like with traditional media like acrylic paint, I made the mistake that I assumed that things were the way I saw them. I mean, you look into your room and you see the red lamp and you think, yeah, that's red, so when you paint that you're gonna draw it something like this. But really, when you have a closer look, you're gonna find that if you keep painting like this, your whole painting is kind of like, you know, when you have Legos, and you just put them together randomly, and the colors really bite because they seem to be completely off of each other. And that's simply because colors are not quite the way we see them, or at least not as simple. You have a certain lighting. Let's just assume, for example, we have this red light here. For some reason, you have a red lamp in your room. Something like that. And on the other side, we have a blue ball somewhere in the room. Now, blue and red are pretty different colors. And in a different light, for example, a whitish light, we'd assume that this is actually blue, which it is. But once you have a red light, and the red light is shining on the blue ball, you will notice that the ball will probably get some purplish colors, simply because the red light is shining onto it, and the blue isn't gonna be pure blue anymore, but red. Now, if we have several objects next to each other, it's just gonna harmonize better if you start integrating the lighting into the picture. Red light, everything kind of has a slight reddish tone to it. You're not gonna find a pure green somewhere where red light is shining on, because that would absolutely bite. That doesn't make any sense. You're not gonna have that. Instead, you're going to probably have a bit of a mixture between green and red, so maybe a bit of a warmer green, a bit of a, not really yellow, but you're gonna see that the green isn't gonna be pure anymore. It's gonna be changed a lot, and it's gonna have notions of red in it because there's red light shining on it, which is just important to note. And if you shade, it's the same. Basically, there's not gonna be much left over of this green that you had in the beginning, simply because the light completely changed it. In a different light, you just have to assume that the colors come out properly if the light is white. If you have a white light, colors are going to be quite true to themselves, and they're going to be very vibrant and strong and lively. That's probably one of the only lights where you can assume that things will be really colorful. Otherwise, they will all kind of work in this similar sort of tone. You're going to have one light color, and actually I'll start a new paper because this is a bit too big for me, and my computer can't take it and it's really slow because of it. Let's just take this. I have an example later which will make it a bit easier. That's my first tutorial and I have no idea how to explain stuff. Right, so back, if we have, for example, sunset, the light is going to be an orangey tone, and We will ignore colors like this, or this, or even this, because they're not really going to happen. They're going to be there, and do put them in as little notions, but really only little notions. But otherwise you're going to have tones like this, this, this. Just make sure that everything basically is a little bit mixed in with this yellow tone you had. So there are going to be blues and greens, but they're going to be very yellowish. They're going to be olive. They're going to be mixed with the light that we have. And blue is probably going to go more into grey because it's mixed with a warmer color, and therefore, as you might notice, whenever you mix something like green and yellow, it's going to get brownish, greyish. It's going to lose some of its vibrance simply because the colors, just imagine they don't function together, and they're going to be mixed together and they're going to look off. But that's the kind of colors you can use. Stay just basically as close to this orange as you can. Every color you use, make it close to orange. And the same goes, for example, with a red light. You're just going to use tones that are reddish. Instead of a blue, you might want to use a purple or a bluish purple. That's all fine as long as it's kind of red. As long as it's in this kind of spectrum. So you want to use warm colors basically. Cool colors are going to go for good contrast, but they're not going to fit in. There's too many times that people draw, for example, a river and a bluish background, and then they draw a figure in the front of the painting, and the figure is going to kind of have a normal skin color. Like, let's have this for skin color, which is a good skin color, you know. I can see why people would want to do this, but they draw the whole figure in this kind of normal light, assuming that we have light like maybe this, whilst in the background they then draw lots of trees that are blue and cloudy, and in this case it works because it's not too extreme. But if you give this a more reddish tone, you're just gonna have to ask yourself at some point, this doesn't fit anymore. And you really want to just give her some bluish skin. Yeah, really. Put some blue in there. Put some blue into her skin. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, and it looks really crap now because this isn't a proper painting. This is just me scribbling with colors. But I'm just going to go over to the example, and we're going to maybe see a little bit better how the whole thing works. So I've prepared a line art for us here that's going to work in this orangey sort of color. So I'm going to be preparing a new layer to prepare the background and the kind of colors that it's going to be like. We have an orangey sun about to set, so the sky itself isn't going to be all that blue anymore, or all that green. Yeah, that's green skies, I'm sure, somewhere. So I'll just assume that it all kind of has this orangey tone to it as well. And that's cool because we can add other colors later, and it's going to be deeper then. But as long as the basic colors don't interfere with each other too much, that would be good. It's just gonna take a moment because my computer is slow. Way too slow. Yeah, sure, let's just do it like that. And another layer for the mountainy bits in the background. Now they're also going to have they're basically grey, but just remember that they're mixed with orange. So if the mountain itself is this sort of color, we just mix it a little bit more with orange and get a warmer color. As long as you mix the color with the light, you're going to be a bit more true to your color spectrum, and it's not going to be looking off at all. This will look really boring at first, but I'm gonna get to this later, and you're gonna see how you can basically use this and still make it a bit of a more dynamic and positive picture. Because in the end, you're not necessarily, you always have to remember that light is quite, you have light from one side and then you might have light from a different side. Light reflects, which is why we get this mixingness with other colors. But since light reflects, anything that is, for example, a completely different color, like blue, and has a bit of light of itself, is also going to reflect on everything around it, which is very important because I'm fully intending to make this a painting with two different light sources. Basically, you use different light sources if you want to emphasize a character, for example, or make the painting a little bit more interesting. I'm going to have a blue light source, which is absolutely going to stand against the light in the background, which is called a juxtaposition. We're going to have a juxtaposition of cool colors and warm colors, cool lighting and warm lighting within the picture. Basically, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure many have heard the expression before, a juxtaposition is basically just a opposite of something, a contrast. You can have a juxtaposition of modern and old-fashioned things, a juxtaposition of soft and hard, juxtaposition of warm and cool, juxtaposition of detailed and not detailed. It can be anything. As far as I know, it can pretty much be anything. So right now you probably noticed that this coat might have been a bit of a more this color, but because we have this orangey light, I'm going to leave it like this, so it just doesn't fall out of the painting too much. And once I've colored this, what I'm doing right now is blocking, basically. You do this when you paint with acrylics, but it's a good thing to do it when you're painting digitally too, because when you paint over it later on your different layers, the colors underneath are going to show through sometimes, and it's just going to add some depth and make it much easier for you. And it also helps you to just plan the colors you're going to use before you actually put them in. Because if something doesn't work now, I will see that right away and I can change the whole picture and make it look absolutely different. This, for example, right here, that isn't the right color. I don't want this hard dark orange. I want something pretty much same to the light. Just put some highlights in, and everywhere the light is going to shine, you're going to have the same color of the light again, basically. Maybe in different variations of it, but it's pretty much going to be, it's gonna be there. You have to see it on everything it shines to. It's not just gonna, it's gonna put highlights in everywhere. And that's nice because that makes it rounder and more realistic to have this light shine on things. And now we're going to have, again on a separate layer, which I'm not showing at the moment and I have no idea why. We can have this beautiful second light, which I ended about in here. And basically have this shine. And that's going to make the painting much more interesting because now we have a chance to use those other colors that usually don't fit into the spectrum but are now kind of there to oppose the orange. So we're going to have basically a bit of, we're going to have this blue light on her chin, we're going to have it on her hands. And this is all going to be quite simple. I'm not going to do the whole thing, I'm just doing this to show you the colors and what you can pretty much do with them if you have a certain light. When you set highlights like this, anywhere on people's faces, on their hair, everywhere, just note that you don't want, even if the light seems kind of white, you don't want them to be an absolute white. You want them to be a sort of, if you have an orangey light, you're going to get white with a bit of orange mixed in. If you have a blue light, you're going to have white with a bit of blue mixed in. You're never going to go for white exactly because it's too cold. it's really rare that white actually exists in a painting. You can use it, of course, if you aim for this kind of cold look, if you have a specific plan for it, but if you want to paint realistically, just try to keep your hands off white as much as you can, just as a bit of a guideline. For this video here, I'm just going to be filling in the highlights more than anything, just to emphasize again that wherever there's light falling on there, we will have this orange, and wherever the light of this blue thing is falling on, we're going to have blue. And it's just, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I hope you understood that if we have a red light, you're going to kind of use reddish colors. Just imagine that you're mixing everything with another. The light is going to lay over all of your colors. It's going to change your whole picture. And that's why lighting is really, really important. And you have to see that your colors don't disagree with the light. Because that takes the realism out of your picture. That takes the light out of it. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm going to be adding some shadows. Once again, the shadows are not going to be too cold, they're going to agree with the light. Don't be scared to add in things that don't fit into the light, but make sure that they're not overweighting the colors that harmonize. Cold colors in a warm setting are nice little accents to set some depth, to make it more exciting, more dynamic. But just try to not overuse them, so that basically everything just remains in harmony with each other. I have no better word than that, harmony. And I think I'm kind of done blocking shortly. And this is pretty much all I wanted to show you for now. I hope it made sense, and this might be available as a speed paint at some point for you to see what I've done with the lighting in the end and how it's gonna look like in the end. Yeah, how was that for a really shitty tutorial? Anyway, I had a go at it. Hope that helped a little. See you some other time, maybe.